All right, 1 second here. All right, 1 second here. All right, welcome on to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Question came in, and this question comes up. Does come up often, but we'll deal with it because we deal with everything here. Question was: the high priest exists before the temple, right? Maybe had a high priest, i.e., a Kohen Gadol, before all the temple was built, before all the repairs. Whatever, a bunch of follow-up questions. Let's just deal with that. One of the things the Messiah has to do is, besides bringing in the exiles, and that is meaning bringing in the Jewish people from outside of Israel, basically one of the things he has to do is rebuild the temple, right? So it's also brought down. The temple is going to come down from heaven, right? Destroy whatever, destroy that mosque or whatever, is there right now. So it could be that it's a contradiction. Maybe, maybe the temple really comes from heaven. The Messiah finishes it, right? Puts the finishing touches on it, right? Let's say, but one of the things the Messiah has to do is rebuild the temple. So we have no temple. Now the question was, didn't the high priest exist before? No. The priesthood existed, right? Levi, Cohen, existed. That's true, right? That is true. They definitely existed. Yeah. But before the fact the temple is destroyed, we have no high priest. Right? There's no high priest today. There was a tabernacle, right? Moses made Aaron the high priest only because God commanded him to make him the high priest. So there were sacrifices, right? There were sacrifices in the tabernacle, and then afterwards, eventually the Beis Hamikdash, eventually the temple itself. So the high priest existed. That is true. The high priest definitely existed, but there was a command to build the tabernacle. Right at the end of the book of Leviticus, all the chapters there about the loops, the bars, the altars, all these things. So you had a high priest, very good. You had a high priest, but not now. We're not going to have a high priest till the Messiah comes. Next part of the question: isn't a tabernacle, i.e., the Mishkan, isn't that forbidden today? Yes. Can't rebuild it. We don't have it. The temple, again, will be rebuilt. But up until that point, we can't bring sacrifices. Right? So there are people who say, every year try and bring up, a sheep or whatever to a Temple Mount. Obviously, Jews can't go up there. The majority opinion is that Jews are forbidden to go up there. I mean, there are some that say we know where to stand, it's not a problem, whatever, but we don't hold that way. Right? You get spiritually cut off if you go up there, so that's definitely a problem. So even if you wanted to do it, even if you got around the problems of purity and impurity, which you won't, but let's say Let's say you got around those problems. Very good. You got a bigger problem. Police won't let you do it. The Arabs certainly won't let you do it. So it's a non-starter, right? So you're right. A tabernacle is forbidden today. And there won't be a tabernacle ever again. Only there'll be a Beis Hamikdash. There'll be a temple. But that temple is going to be rebuilt by the Messiah. So the question is, why not reinstate the priesthood? Oh, very good. But a lot of people ask that question. Not allowed to. That is what the Messiah is going to do. Once the temple is reestablished, you got Elijah the prophet deal with it. Right? When Elijah the prophet comes back, he'll deal with that. The priesthood will be reinstated. Sanhedrin, very good, but not until now. Right? You need a temple for that. You need to deal with these laws of purity and impurity. And that's going to be taken care of when the temple's rebuilt. Very good. So therefore, you cannot reinstate the priesthood until the Messiah comes. Same thing. Right? Now someone will say, but don't we have a temple institute? Isn't the temple institute in Jerusalem busy reconstructing these things? Right? Reconstructing, I don't know, make a thing of the menorah, other things, other vessels. Okay, you can't use them. Still can't use them. What does it matter? Some say that the vessels are buried somewhere in Israel, that one person generation knows where they are. And we'll be able to dig those up and reuse them. Right? Some of them are probably in the Vatican. Right? Anyone's ever seen the Arch of Titus, right? Titus bragging that they ransacked the temple, took them back to Rome. So I don't think there's any question. Some of them are probably there. Right? Do a little bit of spring cleaning in the Vatican. I'm sure you find a lot of very interesting things. Right? That's probably one of them. So therefore, the question is, reconstruct the tabernacle according to the law. So let's say you had experts and exactly how, temple's going to look or whatever. Right? Right? Because we're not going to reconstruct the tabernacle here because that's going to be out of usage. Right? It's going to be the temple. Okay. So if you had experts to do it, you're still lacking the main thing. You're lacking the temple itself. You're lacking the Messiah, even better. You're lacking the Messiah to reinstitute all this. So we don't have it. Right? But guaranteed, I shouldn't say guaranteed, but even if they wanted to do it, even if they wanted to rebuild it, yeah, they'd have a lot of political problems to do it. I'm not even talking about the halachic issues. The halachic issues, plenty. Plenty of halachic issues of why you wouldn't be able to do it. Plenty. Yeah? So it wouldn't be an issue. Right? You got halachic issues, you got political issues. Right? So the question is, okay, why don't we reconstruct it? Nope, not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Too many obstacles. Once God says the Jews are fulfilling all of the laws, maybe God will give us back his temple. Okay. But guess what? There are certain things you can't do. Sacrifice being one of them. If he saw we're doing what we should be on a regular basis, all things being equal, he'd bring the Messiah. Well, guess what? We've been in exile for 2,000 years. There have been pogroms. There have been holocausts. Obviously, we're not doing what we should be doing. But this is not going to happen anyway. Right? The Messiah has to build the temple. That's one of the things he has to do. He's not going to bring the temple back until the Messiah comes. There's only going to be a remnant of Jews left anyway. That's the eternal promise. There'll only be a remnant left. So, I would say like this: if we were really doing what we were supposed to do, I mean, the Jewish people were holding where they need to be, Messiah already would have been here. Kind of hard. You got 13.5 million Jews don't know the alphabet. They don't know nothing from nothing. Why'd you go bring the Messiah? I mean, we are close. Definitely think we're close. I don't think there's any question, but we're not there. We're not there. So the Messiah has to rebuild it. Period. He's got to rebuild it. So, question continues. Has not God given Israel the power to do all the above? No, he hasn't. He hasn't given us the ability to do it. You're going to say, why not? Because we haven't deserved it. If we deserve it, then the Messiah will come. Then the temple will be rebuilt. Very good. And if not, we'll still be in exile. But this is a mistake. God hasn't given us the power to do that. How do you get around the problem of purity and impurity? That's the biggest problem. I mean, politics and whatever is also a problem, but the biggest problem is purity and impurity. You can't get around it. Do we have a red heifer today? I don't know. Some say we do. We found one recently, but again, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It's not necessarily a sign the Messiah is coming. Because they find them every so often. So we don't have the power to do it. How do we have the power to do it? We don't. We don't have the power to do it. Right? So you say, oh, why would Hashem give us the temple back when we don't even have what he's already given us? Listen, we need to be better. We need to keep mitzvahs better, stronger. Remember, if we do what we're supposed to do, what do we say in the Shema in the second paragraph? We do what we're supposed to do. God takes care of our needs. Right? Food won't be a problem. Water won't be a problem. Enemies won't be a problem. Very good. And if we don't do what we're supposed to do, it's payback. It's punishment. There's exile. Pogroms. But you're right. Why should God give it back when we don't even do what we're supposed to do? Good. Right? That's essentially the question. And the answer is very simple. We haven't done what we're supposed to do. Been in exile. Been a pretty big miracle. We've come back to the land after 2,000 years. Huge miracle. No question. So we need to be better. God will say, I'd love to give it back to them. I'd love to take them out of exile. But you got to be ready. You got to do certain things. We haven't done it. We're not there. So why should you give it back to us? The fact we have the land in our hands, that's a pretty big miracle. Yeah, I think that's a pretty big miracle. I mean, there is a measure that says we're not going to be in the land when the Messiah comes. Be in the desert. And the Messiah is going to bring us in, right? So you can take that literally. Hard to imagine, though. I mean, we do have nuclear weapons. I mean, don't tell anyone, right? We have nuclear weapons, but who knows? Maybe the Jews in Israel will be exiled. And then the Messiah has to bring us in or whatever. Maybe. Again, very hard to imagine. So then, person says, okay, if we fulfill all his commandments, everything we can do, then we have the ability to do the rest, right? That's true. If we do what we're supposed to do. And if we haven't done what we're supposed to do, right? Even in Israel, we're still in exile, sure. No question about it. All I have to do is, walk outside, even downtown Jerusalem. You see, Jerusalem's different than any other place, but it's a good reason the temple has been rebuilt. All I have to do is see how people dress. Yeah. What people do. Okay, so we still have to be better, but you're 100% right. If we do what we're supposed to do, good. God will allow the other things to be fulfilled. And if not, and if we don't do what we're supposed to do, what's going to happen? We'll still be in exile. 100% would still be on exile. So that is what I would say to that. Somebody asks, what type of build does he have to do? Physical. He's got to rebuild it. You got to have red effort. You sprinkle it on people so they become pure. Talk about a physical thing, a spiritual thing. He has to physically come. I mean, not himself. He's going to get workers to do whatever, but he has to bring about the building of the temple. That's what he's got to do, physical. But again, he's not going to build it himself. Got plenty of people to help him build it. Okay. So then you got Elijah the prophet. He's gonna tell everyone which tribe they're from, etc. Get everybody organized. Then we're gonna deal with the problem of impurity. So then you're gonna have, you're gonna have the red heifer and all these red heifers, right? To burn the red heifer, to take the ashes, okay. But there's order. There's an order, the way to do it. If everything else has been done good, he's also going to bring in the exiles. Again, he's not flying the planes. I mean, that's seemingly how they would get here, right? So whatever. He'll organize and be in charge of getting all that done. And people will come. So again, anyone who has not done that or come close to doing that, they can't be the Messiah. And they have to be from the tribe of David, right? So it's physical. He makes sure, organizes it, makes sure it happens. He's going to be the one in charge. Going to be very clear he's the one in charge. So, until that happens, and you have all the nations, whoever's left of this final war, whoever's left, they will acknowledge God is supreme. The one God is supreme. All the handful that are left of them. And there'll be world peace, but you haven't seen that. I mean, it is kind of funny in a certain way. Why the Christians say that JC fulfilled it. I mean, he didn't fulfill anything. Did he bring in the exiles? No. Build a temple? No. Did he bring world peace? No. He didn't do anything. Right? They got their own way of looking at it or whatever. Their own convoluted way of saying, no, he did, this, that. They didn't do any of that. And the most important thing, the Messiah of David cannot die in the process. Messiah of Joseph, good question if he dies or not. That's a question. Right? Difference of opinion whether he dies or not. He can die in the process. The Messiah of David cannot. And this we understand, as the Rambam says, where do we know that? From the story of Bar Kokhba, or Bar Koziva, as he was known. Rabbi Akiva thought he was the Messiah. He had no doubt he was the Messiah until he was killed. Once he was killed, then he said, I made a mistake. Then he said he can't be the Messiah. It comes on the Rambam on that. And the Rambam says, according to Jewish law, one of the things the Messiah cannot do? Cannot die. How do I know? How do I know, says the Rambam? Because I know the story of Bar Kokhba. Once I know the story of Bar Kokhba, I know he can't die. Now, how some people think, that the Rebbe was the Messiah, even though he died, right, based on a Gemara in Sanhedrin. Yeah, and over there, Rashi says, if the Messiah would be from someone who's dead, maybe be like the prophet Daniel, or have character traits like someone else. From the past. Doesn't mean the person from the past is coming to life. That's what it means. So yeah, you got a lot of, fortunately, Orthodox Jews think he's the Messiah. Okay. Yeah. Not a small minority, but seemingly it's idolatry. Right? Many would hold it's idolatry. Now, not every Chabad person believes in it. Okay. I have a lot of respect for what they do. The ones who are messianic, problematic. Definitely problematic. Now, my Rabbi would say it's not idolatry. He just says it's a messed up philosophical outlook, but it's not idolatry. I don't think he's changed on that. I think he's got a soft spot for Chabad for different reasons, but he himself does not believe it's idolatry. Other people would disagree with him. Other people would say, if a Chabad person, killed a cow, right, ritually slaughtered a cow, and they believed that the Rebbe is the Messiah, you can't eat it. You cannot eat the meat. There's a lot of big people that hold 100% idolatry. Those people that believe that the Rebbe is the Messiah is idolatry. But again, not everybody does. And I wouldn't say it's a majority, but there is, I would say, a significant minority that do believe he's a Messiah. That's a problem. That is a serious problem. That's idolatry. That seemingly is idolatry. But again, I have a lot of respect for what they do. They go to far-flung places in the world, working with Jews, don't know anything about Judaism, and raise their families there and whatever. It's pretty amazing. Definitely pretty amazing. But anyone who's going to say that the Rebbe is the Messiah, that's kind of a problem. Right? That will be a problem. So that's what I would say on that. So there again, there is a difference of opinion out there. Whether it is idolatry or not. But a lot of rabbinic authorities hold there's no question it is idolatry. Yeah. So, I think my Rebbe's got a soft spot for them. It just says there, it's a crazy philosophical outlook. But he holds if they ritually slaughtered, a cow or a chicken or whatever, you can eat it. He doesn't hold it's idolatry. Yeah. Others, again, would totally disagree. But there's not a small percentage of them. It's, it is kind of hard to understand in different ways. How they can think that. But at the end of the day, if you die in the process, then you can't be the Messiah. Now, one thing I'll mention is that there's a spark of the Messiah in every generation. One person. That person knows they're the Messiah. And the only question is, are they going to be able to reveal themselves or not? Now, if they don't reveal themselves and they die, that spark goes to someone else. And that's what's happened over the generations. So, at some point, that spark and that person will reveal themselves. And that it'll be clear that they're the Messiah. There's not going to be any doubts. Everyone's going to agree. But it is very interesting. Even with the Messiah of Joseph, that helps the Messiah of David, and everything that they need to do. Even the world is going to acknowledge this is Mashiach Hashem, this is the anointed one of God. What are they going to try and do? Try and figure out how to kill him. Yeah. This is the evil inclination's last stand. Last stand. But you have to get to a point where the whole world's going to recognize God is God. And we're not there yet. There. You got the majority world's idolatry. Either idolatry or atheist. I don't know, real atheist, whatever, but either you believe in the wrong thing or you don't believe in anything. So that's not the world believing, in one God and he took us out of Egypt and the Jewish people and all that. We're not there yet. Right? On the one hand, I would say we're not really close. To see what's going on in the world. On the other hand, things are heating up pretty quick. And it seems like the Messiah is right around the corner. I mean, there are signs. The Gemara in Sotah, 15 signs that we're living in the Messianic era. No one disagrees with that. No one disagrees with living in the Messianic era. The only question is when. Right? So, I've heard a number of big people say, yeah, he's knocking on the door. He's behind the door, but he's not there yet. We're not there yet. Right? So, I remember a number of years ago, there were, unfortunately, a lot of bus bombings here and different things. So that's my Rabbi. I said, before the Messiah comes, I said, it's got to get worse before it gets better, right? He's like, yep. What do we need in this generation more than anything else than Muna? Faith and belief in God. That's what we need. That's where we're holding. Because there can be a lot of things we don't understand, and plenty of things right now we don't understand. Right? Plenty of things, plenty of things that we don't understand. Period. What's left is right, right is left. Hard to understand. Hard to make sense of what God does. Sometimes, we can only understand things in hindsight. After the fact. Yeah. Very hard. Because we said, Moses wants to see God face to face. What does the Torah say? No one can see my face and live. Can't see his face and live. Can only see God from the back. Can only understand things in hindsight. And even that we don't always understand. So, very hard to see what's going on. What the ultimate plan is. Somebody asks, what are the best kosher jobs for livelihood in Israel? High tech. High tech's probably the most. I don't know. I don't know if it's the most kosher job. Right? It depends the atmosphere a person's working in. But let's say the atmosphere wasn't so bad. Yeah. Let's say, have such an intermingling of men and women, this and that. But the best, best jobs here, make the most money, certainly is in high tech. That's where it is. Doctors don't make a lot of money here. Lawyers got to fight to make money here. Yeah. Fields and other places where they make a lot of money ain't going to be here. Right? One of the reasons is, what do you call it? Subsidized. Right? That what do you call it? That medicine subsidized. So doctors don't make a lot, unless they go on their own and whatever. But in general, things that make money in other places, don't make money here. And a lot of other jobs people have in education, different things that make less money. You definitely make, less money than other places, and different things offset in a certain way. Education's not so expensive here, right? But, food's just expensive, and rent or mortgages are just, are expensive, or the rent is comparable. But, what they say, how do you make $1 million, in Israel? You bring 2 million with you, right? So, it's hard, but you want to ask, what's the, you're asking the best kosher job. I'm telling you that's the job that makes the most money. What other, I would say what a lot of women go into, is they teach, or they're trying to a play group or something like that. That's consistent money. It's not a lot of money, but the hours are good. Home for their kids. What else? I don't know. Like I said, that makes the most money. What do other people go into? Other fields? I mean, yeah, people that are doctors, lawyers, and accountants. Got people that are accountants. I don't know. People go into architecture, be architects. Yeah, but that's like a hustle, like anything else. You have to find clients. etc. But whatever, computers, it's probably a big field. I've put that together with high tech. So there are two different things here. One is, money wise, what does it make? And the other is the environment. So there is, real estate companies that have separate offices same office for men and women. But let's say about different, what do you call it? Let's say women work during the day, men at night. Men work, day hours of, in America or whatever. So, you have that. Make a ton of money, but I would say that's better. I would say that's better in the sense that, men and women are separate. Definitely better. Some work in tourism, which probably not doing so well today, right? Because of what's going on. I mean, it's a big field, when there's no wars. A lot of people come to visit, so people do that. There are people that do translating that you can do on your own. You don't have to work in an office per se, right? I know it's such a big field. People get into marketing, copywriting, these type of things. Also, these things you work at home. But again, it's also like anything else. You got to find clients, and for these type of things, the person does marketing. You got to put in enough money for the marketing to work, right? For the algorithms and Facebook and whatever to work. Because if you don't, then no one sees it. And then you can't really test it. So, you need to pay the person to do it, and you need the money for ads. So you got to find, you have to find clients that have money, that make enough money to be able to do it. So it's also a hustle, right? Any of these things. There are people that are psychologists, therapists, right? It's also a field. It's also a field. So whatever. These are kosher jobs. But it depends. Also on the environment. Some people work in an office, some people work at home. It depends. So a person can be well qualified, but the atmosphere they work in is not good. Yeah, and in many ways. So that's what I would say. That's what I would say in general. But yeah, this is a high-tech center of the world. I don't think really is that much question right now. Many innovations come from here. So, if a person was inclined to do that, this is a place to be. This is the best place to be. Even though I think one of the companies just laid off a whole bunch of people, but in general, I think it was Intel. But in general, I think that whatever, it's a big field here. It's a big it's a big field if your person is into that and enjoys that. Somebody asks, is painting artistry kosher? Yeah, but there are certain things you can't draw, right? Anything heavenly spheres can't draw, right? In more than one dimension. Anything on the Kisei covered, anything on God's heavenly throne, right? What's on God's heavenly throne? You got a lion, right? You got a human, right? You got man. So certain, the sun, the moon, the stars, you can't draw them according to scale. I mean, can't draw them in more than one dimension. Person you could draw not as a full bust, draw a face, let's say, but it shouldn't be more than one dimension. Draw a picture of it. If you drew a picture of the sun or whatever, you got to do something to make sure it doesn't look like the sun. I remember once I had this tapestry. Tapestry is like more than one dimension. So I had a tapestry where you had the sun like going down over the western wall, and the sun was orange. Yeah, but it looks like the sun. So if it looks like the sun, that's a problem. Right? It's definitely it's definitely a problem. So if it's not, even if it's more than one dimension, but it's not a full person, then that's fine. Right? That would be fine. But any of these things in the heavens you can't draw. right? Unless you draw, unless it's not more than one dimension, and that's the whole question. Like, how can you draw a picture of the sun? In general, a picture of the sun should be forbidden, 100%. Should be forbidden, right? Tapestry, weaving, something like that. Right? I remember, one place I used to live, my Rabbi came for Shabbos, he had a daughter living there. And I asked him, there was a parochis, a covering of the ark, and they had a lion there. So I said, it's more than one dimension. How can they have a picture of a lion there? So he said, after we praise, I'll take a look at it. So I showed it to him, took one look, took a second look, and well, the first thing he said, you don't know what a lion looks like. I said, okay, but tell me why this is okay. So I took a look at it, looked at it a second time. He said, okay, it's a lion. He said, you know what a lion looks like? I'm like, okay, very good. So he said, look a little bit closer. If you look at the paw, doesn't have all the toes that it normally has. Missing the toe. Yeah. So it's not done according to the way it normally looks. In other words, if it had 4 claws or whatever, or 4 toes, it only had 3, or 2, or whatever. So even though it be drawn according to, weaving, and it juts out, which is more than one dimension, it's on a lion. It's on a lion, in that sense, that would be forbidden. So that would be okay, as long as it's not drawn according to the same way. Right? They're in the same way. So that's what I would say on that. Painting in general should be okay. Nature type of things. Yeah, nature type of things should be a problem. Right? I'm just pointing out what the problems are. Right? So anything in the heavens is a problem. Drawing a full bust of a person is a problem. Anything not drawn according to skill or not more than one dimension. Right? So that should be okay as long as you're not drawing a full thing. Right? So that should so the other things, other things, trees and I don't know, whatever it is, it should be okay. Stuff I mentioned, would be a problem. Somebody says, Jewish History Month, my granddaughter's school drew a picture of Jews being liberated. She can draw the facial features. Okay? But again, if it's on a piece of paper or something like that, and it's one dimension, so, we wouldn't say that's necessarily forbidden. Even if it looks like a person. Yeah, once you get into like something more surreal, something more than one dimension, when it jumps out or something, then it would be, that would be a problem. Seemingly, that would be a problem. But it is interesting that the Amish, not big into the Amish because they were rabid anti-Semites. Not so many people aware of that. They were in Germany. They chased after Jews during the war, trying to find people who were hiding. Everyone thinks they're so quaint and this and that, but they were rabid anti-Semites. As well. But they have dolls and stuff that don't have faces. Why do they have dolls that don't have faces? Because they don't make graven images. Right? They go at least according to what the Torah says, you don't make graven images. Good. So you don't make a face. Okay. So you do something to show it's not, even in more than one dimension, as long as, it's not a full body. There's a question someone was commissioned to make a bust of JFK. Right? But like a sculpture, which should be forbidden. Right? So the answer wasn't a full person. Right? It wasn't a full body, it was a face. It's a head. So a head, even in more than one dimension, is okay. It's not the full body. Full body would be a problem. That for sure would be a problem. Someone mentioned some black cultures don't put a face. Okay. But whoever doesn't, that's the reason. Because the Torah says no graven images. That'd be the only reason. It wouldn't make sense otherwise. Right? Why wouldn't they do it? What would be the problem? Right? That's pretty much probably where I would assume. I could be wrong, but I would assume that's where it stems from. Someone says the same images related to the 12 tribes. Yeah, that's a different issue. 12 tribes should be all right. That shouldn't be a problem. Um, um, there's one sec. Let me just double check here. I don't know if there's an issue per se of drawing the tribes. There is an issue. Some prayer books, even some Haggadahs, what they have is the zodiac. They'll have the 12 signs of the zodiac. Yeah. But the 12 signs of the zodiac are heavenly things. So there's a question, in a prayer book or in a let's say a Passover matzah, right? A Passover prayer book with all the prayers for Passover makes it very easy, to follow, whatever. But in some they had drawings of the zodiac. So that seemingly rabbinic authorities bring out that's a problem. Because there are certain things in heaven you can't draw. You're not allowed to draw. Even if you photocopy it, even if it is in one dimension. Some would say it's forbidden. Yeah, so that would be an issue. 12 tribes should not be an issue. That should not be an issue. I knew of a synagogue that had they had these famous Chagall windows. Right? I think they were also, some of them were from the tribes or whatever. I mean, subsequently, that synagogue folded, but in general, that's I don't think that's an issue, right? Unless there are pictures or there or glass or whatever, of things you're not allowed to make in more than one dimension. That would be a problem. That heavenly things you did it in glass, that would be a problem, but that's more than one dimension, right? So these things that are forbidden, to make, certainly if it's more than one dimension, or if it's woven, tapestry, right? Anything that jarts out at a person that makes it more than one dimension. So these type of things would be forbidden, right? Otherwise, other things shouldn't be forbidden as long as, again, person makes a human or whatever. You cannot make a picture of the full body. Yeah, full body would be forbidden. Yeah. Someone asks, how come cherubim allowed? It's not a full body. First of all, it's only their face, right? Face is angels, right? The face of a little kid. So yeah, that's not a graven. That's not a um, we don't look at it. We don't look at it as a problem. So we don't look at it. As an issue. But it's an interesting question. Why? Why that? It's an exception, right? It's definitely an exception that, in general, graven images are forbidden. Yeah, in general, that would be true. But again, that image, is also not of an adult. It's a child. But you could say, even if it's a child, right, it should be forbidden. But you're right. That was a definite exception. Now the question is, why did God allow it? It was interesting. we normally think that who are these cherubs, right? They're short little fat kids, right? That's what they look like. They are, um, face of a child, so to speak. So the most common interpretation is, yeah, that's what it is. That it's like a child. Others, why? So first of all, why they do that, right? That's one question, right? And another question. First of all, why is this an exception? Secondly, why they do it in the first place? So it's brought. The Gemara says that when the Jews came to the temple for, let's say, for a holiday, curtain would be pulled. They would see the cherubs, right, intertwine with each other. So he says the love of your God is like the love of a man and a woman. That the symbolism over there is they're touching each other. What is the representative of love? Yeah, that it represents also God and the Jewish people, right? I guess there's a connection between spreading the wings, in different places, like spreading, I don't know, like clothing, over a woman. So again, there are different explanations. One says it's babies, one says it's a couple, one says it's a symbol of procreation. Um, there is something the Rambam brings out. Um, Let me just see here. The Rambam, I think, in the Guide of the Perplexed, right, which no one really reads because it was pretty much philosophical work to answer all kinds of things that Jews got caught up in philosophy of Socrates and Aristotle. It's not really so in vogue today. It gives a lot of explanation why, the mitzvahs that we do, why we do them. So the Rambam there says that, idolaters, they would build their temple to the stars, right? And there'd be an image for them to worship. So therefore, what do? We built the temple, and that was the name of God. So you had the ark with the tablets, the Ten Commandments. So the Torah says that that this prophecy, which came before belief in the law, right? Because we didn't have prophecy, so we didn't really have belief in the law. So certainly angels came first. So God wanted their existence. So then you have prophecy and all that. And then what would happen? Um, then God commanded them to make an ark, right? The form of two angels, and the belief in the existence of angels would be inculcated in the minds of the people, and therefore they believe in God, leads to prophecy, and these other things. So that in a nutshell is what the Rambam says. In other words, it has to do with prophecy. Prophecy has to do with belief in God, and that's why we had two angels, forming, over the ark. Even though that's the whole question, were they short little fat kids, or what exactly were these? What were they exactly? The Ramchal says that these cherubs correspond to the cherubs in the Garden of Eden, guarding the tree of life. right, with a fiery sword, right? That's why were they in the form of children? Their life's always true, right? They're, simple, childlike. That's, the fact that they had these fiery swords represents conflict and complication and embodying that which is, simplicity in this world. And then once you go in the Holy of Holies, it's a whole different thing, right? Going, then talking about the, what do you call it? The tree of life and the what's it called, tablets, so to speak. But again, it's what it represents. It's like, representative peace and love, so to speak. So you're right. So graven images should be forbidden. But here you got heavenly images for the sake of the Mishkan, which is a model of what? The focusing on heaven, right? Where where Yisro says, God of silver is gods of gold you shouldn't make. Right? That God says. So what's the purpose? It's a heavenly purpose here. So when they built the Mishkan, it's a whole different thing. Right? It's a whole different thing. So that's what I would say. I would say in a nutshell, something like that. Somebody asks, what are the most particular mitzvahs coming into Israel? I would say you're right. Yom Tov's one day. You have to take truma ma'aser from fruits and vegetables, right? You have to take tithes, very good, right? But you're not going to worry about that because if you have proper rabbinic supervision, they do it. So you have to worry about that. One of the most important mitzvahs, I would say, don't do, anytime you're going to transgress, God forbid, in the land of Israel, it's 10 times worse than if you transgress anywhere else. Right? Let that sink in. It's going to be 10 times worse, whatever you do. So what do you have to focus on? You focus on being a Jew. I mean, I don't understand the question. Yeah. What's the most important thing to focus on? Everything. You got to focus on everything. You want to be a Jew, you got to live like a Jew to the best of your ability, even more than you would outside the land. Because if you're going to come here and mess around, you're going to get spit out straight away. Punishment going to be much more severe. So you're going to come, be the best Jew you can be, good. So you earn everything. So you have to know what to do. Right? Shabbos, Kashrus, Lashon Hara, blessings. You have to know all these things. What's the most important thing? You focus on all of them. There's no most important thing. Is the tree of life rendition of the Kabbalah picture? I don't know. That I don't know. Knowing that there's a risk, knowing that there's a risk, someone sells stolen items on eBay, it's not your problem. Yeah, that's not a problem. Why? Because if they're already stolen, the person doesn't think they're ever going to get them back. Right? So let's say someone had a stolen item. You didn't know it was stolen. They stole it. You bought it. Is that a problem? Not a problem. Shouldn't be a problem. Why? Because the person who stole it from, there's probably no way they think they're ever getting it back. So since there's no way they're thinking of getting it back, what are they going to say? They're going to say, I lost it. They gave up hope from getting it back. So if they gave up hope from getting it back, then the other person who has it is theirs. I mean, they stole it, okay. But if they sell it to someone else, not a problem. You can definitely get benefit from it. You can buy it. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry if it's stolen or not. Yeah, let me see other questions here. Someone asked the book of the Rambam Melochim. Yeah. Convert is considered an Israelite in all matters. Well, what is the exception that makes convert less than a natural born Jew? If someone converts properly, right? If somebody The question is, what are the exceptions to convert less than a natural born Jew? There are certain things they can't do, right? In some cases, they can't be a rabbinical court judge. Women can't marry a Kohen. Convert cannot marry a Kohen. Right? In some cases, they cannot have positions of authority. What else? What other things? I don't know. Those are a bunch of things. Those are a bunch of things. But most things, most things are the same. How many Mashiachs are there in Judaism? 2. There's a Messiah of David. There's a Messiah of Joseph. There's a question whether the Messiah of Joseph dies or not. Right? So, it's not clear whether he dies or not. Some say he does, some say he doesn't. We don't know. Messiah of David cannot die. So there are 2. There are 2. Somebody says somebody's gone up and gone down to heaven. Yeah. What's his name? Couldn't tell you. Yeah. Yeah, good luck. Okay. Yeah, any other questions here? Let's see. Yeah, any other questions here? Someone says being a Jew only by blood relation. A person is a Jew if their mother is a Jew. If the mother had a reform or a conservative conversion, it's no good. Mother has to be a bona fide Jew. No pretenders. No pretenders over here. Reform or conservative conversion, no good. Maybe some Orthodox conversion is not good also. But in general, someone had a reform or conservative conversion, they have to convert again. Right? So a person can convert. They for sure can convert if they meet the criteria. You got to live within walking distance of an Orthodox synagogue. Right? You got to live amongst Jewish people. You got to keep what the Torah says. Whatever we have to keep, as a Jew, that you have to keep. 100% you have to keep. But if a person's mother's Jewish, then they're Jewish. They don't have to go through conversion. If they don't have proof, let's say there's not a marriage document somewhere, a grandmother, great grandmother, or 4 generations buried in a Jewish cemetery, then you'd have to go through conversion. But if your mother's Jewish, in general, you wouldn't have a problem. How come Shmai and Naftalia were judges? Yeah, that's a good question. So some say that that they were the heads of Sanhedrin, right? So if they were converts, right, how could they be the heads of Sanhedrin? So we learn out from Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 15, that choosing a king, it says, from among your brothers. Also, it means judges have to be from someone that from your brothers, not that you converted, right? Now, a little bit hard to understand, but simple explanation is you have to have an impeccable lineage. Now, some say that the father was Jewish. That's good enough. That might be good enough even if they convert. Another opinion is the fact that they were allowed to be on the Sanhedrin would mean that it was permissible, right? That they were allowed to. The Rambam learns that they were the greatest of that generation, so there was an exception. Normally, we would say they couldn't do that, but since they were the greatest of that generation, they were allowed to be on the Sanhedrin, right? They were allowed to. Others say that if they appoint him as a judge, right? They appoint him as a judge, and there's no problem, even though some disagree. In other words, if two people come and they want this person to judge them, and let's say laws of money, yeah, very good, so they're allowed to. They are allowed to. Others disagree. So essentially, we see the difference of opinion, but I think the general consensus would be that if they learn the laws and they did what they were supposed to do, they could be. There's there is strong opinion they cannot have powers of position. What about the head of yeshiva? So Moshe Feinstein says that that's not a power position per se. They're like glorified fundraiser. But you can say they have the power to allow students in, not allow students in. So what do you do? So that's not a position of power per se. Can they teach Torah in the yeshiva? Yes. Now, Rabbi would disagree over here in the case of rabbi of a synagogue. Why? Why couldn't there be a rabbi of a synagogue? Because a lot of times, if the rabbi of a synagogue either resigns or dies, who normally takes over? Usually their son. Usually if they have a son, the son would take over. If that's how it goes, right? A lot of times it's inheritance over here, and converts don't inherit. So not everybody would agree with this, but my Rebbe would say no. He would say they can't be. They can't be a rabbi of a synagogue. So I guess it's a technical issue. He said you got to explain to him like it is a technical issue. It's nothing inherently wrong with them, but it's a technical issue. If the Messiah of David is a long-awaited Messiah, the Messiah, what's the task of the other three Messiahs? First of all, it's only one. Right? And that's the Messiah of Joseph. Right? So so he's supposed to help the Messiah of David, right? That's one thing, right? He's definitely supposed to help in whatever the Messiah of David has to do. One opinion is that interesting. One opinion is that either it's from the tribe of Yosef or at least comes from one of the lost tribes who were exiled by Sancherib, and that he's instrumental in uniting 10 tribes with the rest of the Jews of exile. Now that's not so simple because not so clear whether the 10 tribes are going to come back or not. Right? That's the whole question. So basically, he's going to help. According to Rav Sajigon, he's going to help lead the Jewish people back to tshuva, back to repentance, and according to that, he's going to die. He's going to die in the battle of Gog and Magog. Again, not clear, but according to this, he'll die. He'll die, but according to some sources, he'll be resurrected immediately after the war, and resurrection of the dead. Others say he dies not to detract from the monarchy of Mashiach ben David, of the Messiah of David. Interesting. Again, the whole question whether whether he's going to die or not. Others say we don't have anything conclusive. Like we don't have anything conclusive about it. That's what I would say. Yeah. Any other questions here? What are the paradox? Parodical. I'm not sure what this means. Tzitzis having to use public restroom. So the person wears tzitzis. What do? You don't have to take them off. Now, a person has to go to the bathroom. You don't take them off. Obviously, obviously you want to make sure that they don't get soiled, but you don't have to take them off. Right? There's no obligation to take them off. They're allowed to be in the bathroom. Right? They're covered. Right? They're covered by your shirt. You know, I wouldn't necessarily if a person let's say wasn't wearing a shirt and they put tzitzis over their chest, they walk in the bathroom, I wouldn't necessarily tell them to do that. Right? So if it's covered, if tzitzis are covered, then that's not a problem. That's not a problem being in the bathroom. Yeah. Other questions. Will the world be destroyed and recreated again? Yes. There'll be 1,000 years, right? Every day of creation, right? It's 1,000 years, 6,000 years. The world will be around for 6,000 years. Seems the Gemara says, be 1,000 years that the world gets destroyed, the world will come back. And then you'll have resurrection of the dead. Resurrection of the dead will be after that. Once the world comes back, the world is recreated, then there'll be resurrection of the dead. That seems to be the order, right? But again, there's difference of opinion with that also, right? It could be maybe there's resurrection of the dead before, then the world gets destroyed and people come back. I don't know, right? There's a difference of opinion. Difference of opinion. But if it's going to be a similar world to this, as the Rambam says, so resurrection probably come later. Will come after the world's destroyed. It's 1,000 years. 1,000 years where I don't know. It seems like we'll be flying around and who knows what. But 1,000 years of desolation, and then the world gets rebuilt. That's the way it looks. Yeah. Any other questions? I think I answered the questions. Being a Jew by blood relation, I answered that. Mashiach ben David, the long way to Messiah. What's task the other three? There's only one other one. I answered that. What's going to be destroyed? The world going to be destroyed? I answered that. I don't know what question you're referring to. Somebody asks, when you convert, are you obligated to stay living in that community? No. You're allowed to move. They may want you to stay in that community longer, but you don't have to stay there. You are free to move. They may, the rabbinical court may say, we want you to stay there for another year, and then if you want to move, you can move. But you're not obligated to stay there forever. Any other questions? Is moving Israel better than moving somewhere in the States for conversion? No. Worse. A lot worse. Because there are issues here, there are politics here. A lot of politics here. And person has to be here legally. Yeah, it's one of the criteria to convert. Your visa cannot be expired. So some people do is they play the game, they go out of the country, they go to Greece, they come back, another 3 months, but there's only like really one place that is recognized by the chief rabbinate where you could get a visa for 2-year student visa. I wouldn't recommend it because I don't think it's worth very much. But it's one of the things I want to do in the future is set up something like that. But whenever that's going to be, it's not for now, but some point, do that. There are a lot of politics here. A lot of politics. And it's hard to live here also. I wouldn't recommend it. I think it's a lot easier if someone lives in the States or other places. I think it's easier. Definitely a lot easier than being here. Because again, you got an issue living here legally. And people play the game, they may hide or whatever, and so they don't find them or whatever. But like, I don't think it's worth it to do that. Just stay here. So I wouldn't recommend people coming here. If someone says they really want to come here, whatever, okay, they can. I'm not saying not. I just think it's a lot harder to convert here. Definitely a lot harder to convert here. Somebody asks, what state is best to move to? Should stay in the state of Michigan. Yeah, Michigan has certain, Detroit's a good community. I mean, I don't know if it's so safe, but there's a nice community there. I would say wherever you're going to go, make sure it's out of town, not New York, New Jersey. St. Louis has a nice community, even though it's very small. I'd say Atlanta, Miami, places in Florida. um, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, Denver, Chicago. I don't know if people want to go to Chicago. Also very strong community there. But basically, anywhere that's not New York and New Jersey, and there's sizable community, then the communities I mentioned, very good communities, right? There are good communities there. Yeah, let me see. Someone asked what the star get. I don't know. I don't know what you're referring to. Let me see. 1 second. Um, all right. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Um, yeah, other question. Let's see. Someone asks if you want to convert, you have to live in the life in the community full time. I mean, they're going to want you to. 100%, they're going to want you to. But if a person's married, they have kids. The kids want to convert, so you have to educate them. So, everyone has to move in the community at some point, right? You can't just commute there. I mean, you have to be within striking distance for sure, but at some point you got to be within walking distance, right? You have to be in walking distance of an Orthodox synagogue. Valid? Hmm? It's valid. It's Shkia now. No, I never been. Anyway, so that is what do I say on that? But the whole family has to go. It can't be just you commute there and they stay somewhere else. I mean, if you have kids to educate, you have to be there also, right? For sure, you have to be there also. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone says, "I know Jews do not believe JC is the Messiah." Okay. So, and JC is not God. Very good. As a Jew, if JC is God manifested in the flesh, right, what happens to the Jews? Nothing, because we don't believe it. Pretty simple, right? We don't believe he's the Messiah. We believe he's a false prophet, or whether he existed or not is also a big question, right? That for us that doesn't it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, there's a major problem with this, right? And I'm not here to answer Christians. That's not what I do here. But I will mention one thing: God is omnipotent. God is everywhere at all times. Nobody can know God's essence, so God doesn't have a form. God will never have a form, according to us. So if God will never have a form, how can he put himself in something? Right? There is a question, legitimate question. If God would, God says in Exodus chapter 25, verse 8, God says that I want you to make me a Mishkan, a tabernacle, and I'm going to dwell amongst you. Now, if God is not bound by space or time, right? We're going to keep it very simple. God is not bound by space or time. If God is not in any way, shape, or form, no pun intended, bound by space or time, how could you put him in a box? Mishkan, tabernacle is a box. Essentially, it's a box. The temple is much bigger. Okay. Even if the temple is much bigger, how does an omnipresent being be put in a square box? That's seemingly impossible. So what does that mean, his presence? God doesn't have a presence. I mean, through people felt him and through the clouds and whatever, but no one knows his essence. So if God is omnipotent, it doesn't have a form. So my question would be, how can he put himself in human form? Right? That would go against logic. And to explain how God puts himself into a box, i.e., into the tabernacle. The only way you can explain that's according to Jewish mysticism, according to Kabbalah. Because otherwise, simple explanation, God's everywhere at all times. If he's everywhere at all times, then you can't put him in another form. No possible way to put him in another form. Yeah, that's what we believe. Right, but also you're right. The Torah says I have no other gods before me. He'll say there are no other gods to me. He's the same one. Right? God put him in the flesh. It's he himself. Okay. Right? That's what they're going to claim. But we hold that's like, oh, anyway. Right? But again, practically speaking, how does that work? How would that work if God is omnipotent? How can you put him in a box? How can you put him in a human form? How does everyone, I'll ask another question. How do you have everybody has a spark of God in them? Everyone's creating God's image, the Torah says. Very good. Yeah, so what does that mean? There's a spark. There's a spark of God. How can there be a spark of God? God's everywhere at all times. What is that spark? Yeah, this is not a simple question. Right? This I would say it's Kabbalah 101, 101A. It's a hard question. Yeah, there are, great, Jewish minds that have dealt with this issue, but like this is a very hard question to answer, face value, because God's all over the place. God cannot put himself one piece of him in one place and go somewhere. That doesn't make sense, right? Logically, does not make sense, right? We just said God's not limited by space or time. If God is not limited by space or time, how do you put him in a box or a body or anything else? Right? Logically. Right? Logically, he's the Ein Sof, right? He doesn't end, he's infinite. So again, this can be explained Kabbalistically. We're not going there, but Kabbalistically, we could have a discussion about it. But simple explanation makes absolutely no sense. I'm not even talking about oral law and listening to rabbis and this and that. If he's infinite in general, how do you put him inside anything? His presence, you can't, maybe you can feel it, whatever, you can't see it. No one's ever going to see God's essence. So how's he putting himself in anything? Even though, the Torah speaks in anthropomorphic terms, so we can understand, puts the terms in, that man can understand. But you know what? A lot of this doesn't make any sense at all. Doesn't make any sense. It's very hard to understand. And most people don't understand it. But that doesn't stop us from serving it. Yeah, this is extremely complex. But logically speaking, it shouldn't happen. It's an impossibility. If he's infinite, you can't put him anywhere. You cannot put him anywhere. Right? Someone asking, did God do whatever he wants? He can't go against his own law. There's a fundamental question philosophers have been fighting with for generations, throughout the millennium. I don't even understand the question. They say, can God, make a rock so big you can't pick it up? And what's the answer? No. Right? I don't understand the question. Why? Because it's very simple. He's infinite. So he's not limited. First of the Rambam's 13 principles of faith. Can't be limited. He's absolute. So if he's got no limitations, is he going to make something he can't do? No. He's not limited. Totally not limited. Right? Someone here says, yeah, God can do whatever he wants. He can go here, go there, do this, do that. He's unlimited. He's not, angels are limited by space, not time. God's not limited by either, and we're limited by both. Yeah, I want to point out for the record that, these are extremely complex issues, extremely complex. But fundamentally, if God is everywhere at all times, right? If that's the case, he's not limited. So how can you put him in a box? How can you put him in one place at one time? Any time in history, doesn't matter. How How does that work? Right? So the question is, God manifests himself in flesh. How in the world did he do that? That's my question. How did he do it? It doesn't seem like he should be able to do it. Yeah, he can't do it. He's not going to limit himself in this world. How he's going to put himself in the tabernacle? Excellent question. Kabbalists deal with that. Excellent question. That shouldn't work either. Because if you look at what the Torah says, that doesn't make any sense either. God says, I'm going to put myself in a box. Really? How are they going to do that? He's infinite. He's not limited. You can't put him in a box. In the box is, 5 billion by, 10 billion feet or who knows what. He's infinite. Right? You can't put him in a box. Someone says, whoever controls the atom is a god. He's not a god. Adam wasn't God, not even close. He was the greatest of God's creation. You got to remember, if God created everything, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, God created the heaven and the earth. God didn't create, God was there before and after. Anything he created is subservient to him. He made it. Nobody made God. Right? So everything is subservient to him by logic. Logic. Because if he made everything, how can he be less than someone else? How can someone, some entity, whatever it is that he created, be greater than the one who created it? Sounds like Transformers, doesn't it? Right? The one that creates everything else should be greater 10 times than the other people or the other entities. It should be 1 billion times greater. They can't overthrow it. They can do whatever they want because he's in control. And nobody made God, right? Definitely no one made him. So, yeah. Someone asked what's easier to convert in some places. Isn't the halacha the same? I'm not getting into it, but there are a lot of politics. Some places are harder to convert. Some people have more stringent, some places are more stringent than others. Okay. The halacha shouldn't change, you're right. But it's not necessarily universal. It's not to know the same things that the, kashrus and Shabbos and, but there are places that have, more criteria than others. What is halacha on conversions? Again, I'm just going to say one thing, and that is not all rabbinical courts are equal. And some rabbinical courts will not accept other rabbinical courts. Because what they do is sometimes it's dodgy, as English would say. Very dodgy. Some more, some less, so to speak. So I would say, they should be based on a universal standard, but they're not. It's not a universal standard. Some are better than others. So my family needs to be on the same page, right? Or what if they don't do all the laws, at least the first? Again, bottom line, someone wants to convert, they're married, they have kids, they all have to be on the same page. That doesn't mean, one could be ahead of the other, whatever, but bottom line, they have to know the same things. They have to go in the same direction. If they're not going in the same direction, then that person can't convert, or he has to get divorced, which I don't recommend if everything is okay. Right? I wouldn't tell anyone to get divorced that way. But they have to be on the same page. If kids are at home and they don't want to convert, based on rabbinical court probably wouldn't convert you until they're out of the house. You can't have non-Jews running around the house. So, but if the spouse is not on the same page, but they will be at some point, okay, right? But if not on the same page and they're not going to be on the same page, then that person won't be allowed to convert. Why do we have changes in the Shemona Esrei between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? Because it's all about judgment still. We're still reminding ourselves it's judgment, right? Final judgment comes after Yom Kippur. If we have a judgment now and it's bad, God forbid, we still have till Yom Kippur to fix it, or till Hoshana Rabbah, but basically till after Yom Kippur. So you're reminding yourself that God's still in charge, that there's judgment and judgment's still going on. It didn't just stop after Rosh Hashanah. These are 10 days of repentance, it's still judgment. There's still time to fix ourselves up to get into a proper judgment. right? That's why we mention it. So I divorced my wife because I want to convert. I did not say that. I said if all things being equal, if you didn't have any issues, the only issue is you want to convert and she doesn't want to convert, I would not tell someone to get divorced. If you were going to get divorced anyway, different issue. That's your choice. Your choice would be if she doesn't want to convert, then yeah. Then either you stay in Noahide when you want to learn, or you get divorced. But I make very clear I would never tell anyone to get divorced unless they're going to get divorced anyway. But there are some people that say this is the most important thing in my life. My spouse is on board. Okay, so they're not on board. So I'll get divorced. I'll meet someone else. There are people who do that. There are definitely people who do that. Okay. My personal philosophical outlook on that is I don't recommend it. Well, if someone says they're going to do it anyway, okay, right? That is a choice. So in your situation, you want to convert, she doesn't. So again, if you were going to get divorced anyway, and that's where it's going, fine. If you weren't, you weren't planning to get divorced, that wasn't your intention, then yeah, then I wouldn't tell you to get divorced. Adam's created being, so he can't become the creator. How can it be the creator? How can it be greater? Logically speaking, how can it be greater than the creator? God created him from the four corners, thus the four corners of the earth. How, in any way, shape, or form, can he be the creator? He can't be the creator. Doesn't the Torah say God walked through the garden in the cool of the day? Yeah, again, it's anthropomorphism. He hovered over there. Does God have a foot? Does God walk? He doesn't walk. God doesn't have an image. There's no image over here, right? So again, you're asking good. You're asking good. So what does it mean he walked? His presence was there. What does it mean his presence was there? He felt his presence there. But they didn't see him. Adam and Eve covered themselves up from their nakedness, and then God confronts Adam, right? They felt his presence. The Torah says, very good. Did they see him? No. Was he in any form? No. They felt him. Yeah. Walking around, they felt his presence. What does that mean? Good question. Again, it's all Kabbalah over here. Well, the word of God's all your soul, all your entity. Yeah, your soul is your thought. Be careful what you think, right? You got to be careful what you think. Got to be careful what you see. Got to be careful what you do, right? A lot of things. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Torah Portion of the Week, even though I'm very behind. Ethics of Our Fathers, Q&As. Book of Leviticus, you want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good